Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Perform Happy Podcast. I am so excited to be here with Brandi Smith, who is a former USAG national champion collegiate gymnast, cheerleader, dancer, physical therapist, and performance coach. She specializes in empowering athletes in aesthetic sports, where I hang out often, both mentally and physically. Brandi, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much, Rebecca, for having me. It's such a great blessing to be here. So I'm excited.
Me too. So it's like, where do we even start? I love to start at kind of your story of how you went from, gymnast to physical therapist to, culture, culture helper,
All
whatever we
these
want to call
things.
it. But yeah, so if you want to talk a little bit about your gymnastics experience and how you got to doing what you're doing, that would be awesome.
Well, I kind of have that standard US gymnast story. I started gymnastics when I was 3, of course, because I was flipping all over the back of the couch, driving my mom nuts. The little preschool program I had actually would take us to a gym. So I was in a preschool with, they vanned us over to the gym, and that was where I started gymnastics. So started when I was 3, started competing when I was 7, started commuting when I was like trying to do the math the other day. I think I was 9 when we started driving 45 minutes to gym and back. Yeah, so I just the standard went through gymnastics all the way up through high school. I grew up in a bunch of no-name gyms in small town Texas, and by middle school was the highest level at every gym I ever went to, with a big like 4-year gap between me and like the next group of kids. So that brought its own challenges. I went through as an athlete everything from fear, like massive bouts of fear, and getting over a huge fear on my flight on balance beam. It was a 3-year battle. I had multiple injuries. I ended up with 11 orthopedic surgeries during and after the sport, related to the sport, which then, fast forward leads you to physical therapy, right? And I had my own bouts with nutrition, and I was of the generation where I was in junior high, oldest athlete with the body changing, being weighed in her sports bra and underwear. And so I had my own eating bout issues and got through all of that. My senior year in college, not college, senior year in high school, I was about to sign for my scholarship, and it was the Friday night before the Saturday meet signing, and it was a meet nearby, so we were home, and I just wanted to do one more turn, and I ended up getting injured and having to have surgery, and that's put me out for 9 months, that whole situation. So I lost the scholarship. I was invited to walk on. I walked on the freshman year. I pulled mats for a national championship. Went home, was bitter. Like that ring was like this weird experience of like, yes, I'm on a college gymnastics team, which was the goal I set at age 7. And then here I was, I made it. I'm on the college team. We won the national championship. I should be really happy and excited for my teammates. And I was, and really happy for us. But I had a knife inside me that was just stabbing me, going like, you didn't do anything. You pulled mats. And so I went home super lit on fire, and got all these skills on all these different places. My mindset was still, I was going for my flight 60 to 70% of the time, but that was still not 100%, but I hit 99% of the time. So I drove everyone nuts, including myself. And so that wasn't enough. So I walked on, I went to Hell Month in September to try out, and I got cut from the team. And he said, you're welcome to train at my club. And so I was like, okay. I was like, biggest mistake you ever made. You will give me a scholarship and I will contribute. And so sure enough, my junior year, I came back, and I had my flight. I got through all the fear, and I already hit 99% of the time. I just needed to go. So I got through the fear, and came back and earned myself a spot as a starting lineup on beam and on vault, and got a scholarship that year, and then did the same my senior year. And our senior year, we won. I contributed to beam and vault for a national championship title. And so that was kind of like this huge journey that just like built a foundation for things, like the process of getting injured, and like this huge gap between medicine and the performance world. No one knew what to do with me. Like medical people said, no, 9 months, no weight on my arm. Like how many split leaps and jumps can you do? Um, and then when I came back, like, they were like, okay, so let's go. And I'm like, I haven't done anything in 9 months on my arm. Like, I'm afraid to hang from the bar. Like, I don't even know if his arm's going to take the weight, like it was, and so there was a huge gap. So all of that like led me down this path. It's really interesting. I can literally say every moment in my life has led me to be where I am right now. And it's such a great blessing, because fast forward, I went to PT school, got a fellowship training, went through a 3-year residency and fellowship. And then I gathered a whole lot of tools as I went. And all of those tools have just come to be very, very conducive and helpful for helping both myself and coaches and former gymnasts, and athletes looking for healing, but also helping, current athletes and parents and coaches, come together on the same page, and medical providers all on the same page to, achieve whatever greatness they want to achieve. And so that being said, I treat the athlete very different. I've been working with everything from recreational athletes all the way up to currently on the world's men and women's team, athletes. Um, and so I've just done the gamut from like, I want to just enjoy the sport and be done. And then I want to, maybe finish up Excel Gold or Diamond as a, high schooler, or I want to go to college, or I'm going to transfer into an acro and tumbling world, or diving or pole vaulting. Or I'm going to go in and, become a cheerleader or professional ballerina. But yeah, so all of these journeys have led me to really help, lots of athletes, conquer their fears, because really it is a connection of the mind, the body, and the emotions. And you have to have a greater force than you. Maybe it's a spiritual force, maybe it's, God, maybe it's something else that you call it, but there really has to be a drive. There has to be a why. There has to be a why for anything. No one's going to do something hard with no why. So I spend a lot of time helping people find their why, and then connecting that to their physical, right? Like, of course, all of that comes with like drills and exercises and conditioning and all those kind of things. So we can kind of talk about any of those things. Started an online course, program, Perfect 10 PT Academy, because I felt like, we flood you with all this information, this one-time thing, but like, that's actually not how our brains work. Like we need time to process, and we need someone to walk this through with us to help make the behavioral changes that we want to make. Like that's not a just like on your own kind of, hey, here's a whole bunch of new information you've never seen before and good luck. Like that's kind of what I felt like sometimes we do with conferences. And I'm like, I want to walk with you. I want to walk this journey with you so that you can help make the choices that you need to make and make the changes that you need to make to get you where you want to be.
I love that the internet has allowed these little niches to emerge where you can very specifically help the people on exactly what they're struggling with, rather than sort of leaning on like the local person who sort of understands a little bit. Like you can really find the expert in exactly what the issue is in your exact sport or your exact age. Like it's really so powerful, I've found.
Definitely, 100%. And I think that that's the thing that's super cool is, I'd been doing virtual. I had a hybrid model since 2013 and didn't know it. Like it was before hybrid. It was when Skype dropped everything. And but what it was necessary, because I was teaching out somewhere and someone had problems and they demoed for me, and we just did a few things during the demo. I got him out of pain. She went running at the end of the thing and like went and got her mom and brought her mom back. I thought I had upset her because she ran out so fast. And she came back with her mom, like, we have to see you. And I was like, okay, you're here. I'm here. How do we do this thing? And she's like, I've seen everybody, my brother, they've released me, but I'm still not doing gymnastics because I still can't, because I have pain. And I'm like, let's do it. And so I've been, that born into the virtual world before it really took over in 2020.
Yeah, I had virtual PT during COVID for like neck and head pain from all the various fallings on my head in gymnastics and cheer, getting launched off the stunt in the end zone onto my neck. It's like, all the fun things that we do in sport. But yeah, I was amazed that you can virtually experience physical therapy. I was like, wow, what can't you do at this point via the internet?
I actually have to tell you one of my favorite things so I'm a manual physical therapist, so I can manipulate you from head to toe if you want me to. And sometimes it's necessary to do all that, but like ultimately I love doing virtual because it's so empowering. Like ultimately I'm empowering you. Like I just guided you. Who fixed you? Like not that you were broken in the first place, but who helped you get further, right? Like You did. Here, and I can even teach self-mobilizations, and I can teach, and some of it's, calming of the alarm system. Some of it's movement. Some of it's, just really training your eye on movement impairments and what's going on, why someone's moving wonky. I'm like, that's a wonky move. Don't you see that? No, yeah, that is wonky.
Yeah,
So,
it's very cool. So, okay, so I'd love to talk to you a little bit about culture and because I know that that's a place that you and I align
mhm.
that, I actually did not want anything to do with USA Gymnastics until like just this year I reached out to Kim Kranz and was like, okay, let's do this. I'm willing to, get involved with an organization that's just been so toxic for so long and done so many things wrong. So I feel like, it's so important to be a part of the change and to kind of go in and say, okay, let's educate, let's figure out how to make this a safe and happy and healthy place. So I'd love to know kind of where you see the biggest room for improvement and things that parents and kids can be doing to improve the culture of this sport. Like it's one thing to say it's broken, it's another to be like, here's the action that we can take to make this a better place for kids. I'd love to hear your thoughts on ways to improve the culture.
What I feel like is an easy point where change can happen is truly when we take ownership of our own power and stop giving it to other people.
Mm.
Like recognizing really, like, so for instance, in Texas, there are gyms where to try out, they won't even let you try out if you're at another gym. Or when you're trying out, then it's all about them. Like the people will walk in and it's like, it's all about them accepting you. And I'm like, no, 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 it's not. Like, actually, no. Like, first of all, every gym has its own culture and every gym's going to be different because there are different humans inside that gym and they all have different humanness. Right. And so I tell families when they're like looking for gyms is like, one, come up with your own list. What is your ideal gym? What is your ideal scenario? And I want you to go down the whole list. Like, what does the coach look like? What does the teammates look like? How do they deal with injuries? How do they deal with school events? How do they deal with the kid being in another sport? How do they deal with, right? Like, write down all the things and then highlight or put big stars next to the non-negotiables. Like, my child should be treated with respect. My child should always never be talked down to and always be collaborative in their program, right? Like in their goal setting, in their, right? So like I would ask them like the other things you want to look at, like how does your athlete, how do we move athletes from level to level? Who makes the decision? Who's involved, right? Like if everything's being dictated from one person, that's not necessarily a culture of collaboration or healing in this new age. Was that a culture that once existed? Yes. But is that a culture that really has helped people thrive and gather and harness out of the sports what it is that we really can get? So like for me, all of my programs underneath everything I do is that sport is a vehicle to experience, learn, and grow, harness these massive, amazing attributes we can get, dedication, determination, perseverance, falling and getting back up and doing again, doing hard things in front of large crowds, being judged, being held up to outcomes, being held up to, not that outcomes are everything, but the fact that we have to kind of create an outcome. That's life, right? Also just having deadlines. I got to get X by X, right? Like not that it should always be like that. It should not always be like that, but why do we compete? I ask the athletes and parents that all the time. Why do we compete? Well, we compete, like, think about it. Well, if you're competing to win, okay, but you're not going to get very far because that's only one person, right? Out of hundreds to thousands to millions of athletes, depending on what event you're running into. If you're at the Olympics, you're against millions, like billions, like was it 8 billion people on this planet? Not all of them do gymnastics, but still, like it's a very small percentage that's going to get first place. So if that's why you're competing, you can, but it's not what I'd recommend, right? So what I think about is okay, if you think about it, everything in this universe, it changes based on forces, external forces, right? So why would I compete? Well, maybe I would like to come and experience, how do I respond to stressful situations? How do I respond to the pressure, to the experience? How do I respond to the environment around me? Why do we get in a team sport? Why do we get into gymnastics where we have a team, but we're individuals at the same time being a team? Like that's also brings a whole nother slew of externals, right? But when I put myself in those externals, I'm learning what my mind can do, what my body can do, how to control my emotions. Emotions are good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying control your emotions, don't have emotions. I want to say that blanketed statement, because emotions are big. Matter of fact, emotions have superpowers. Anger has action. Fear has alertness, but the ability to harness those superpowers. When do you practice that in your everyday life at school? Like, it's not all being practiced. So being in a sport gives us this place to practice mastering our mind, mastering our emotions, and pushing our bodies to the limits, finding out what can they do, what can they not do, which is a super cool place to be. But all of those things are done best when we're in a safe environment. Like, ultimately, like bringing it back, right? Ultimately, we know neuroscience wise, if I don't feel safe, I am not going to master my emotions or my mind or my body. None of those things will function near as well as they will in a place where I have autonomy, where I have collaboration, where I have power, where someone's supporting my power, right? So, like, I work with all these athletes, right? Their outcomes are not mine. It's really important. Like, my goal is to get them to be independent and empowered so greatly that they go off and they're doing well until they need the next level of something, right? And so, to master your mind and your body and your emotions through sport and get all of these great attributes we can get out of it, I think the key is for parents and athletes and coaches to recognize that no one person is going to do anything for anyone. So, for instance, like, it used to be the old school promise to be like, oh, your kid wants to go to the Olympics. We can do that. And I'd like to say, no, they can't. So I've worked with really high level athletes that are on junior national team. There's several of them at various points I've been in, right? And the reality is that little 1%, they come in something special. They come in something special. And it's they need tools. So people can give them tools to be wherever they need to be. But a lot of times I feel like we give over our power thinking, getting stuck on outcomes and thinking that some person or a specific gym, like if I have the best equipment, if I have the biggest gym, if I have the, and I'm not saying equipment's not helpful, right? But I was just talking to guys in Uganda and they don't have equipment and they have some amazing technique. I was watching their video on their back handsprings. Holy cow. I want to send it to Bill Sands. I'm like, dude, this is amazing technique on round up back handsprings because they have no other choice. There's no spring floor. They're on the dirt, right? Like, and they're doing double backs into a pit of dirt that they fluffed up, right? Like, it just like a mound of dirt that's softer. Like, that's it. And it was amazing. But I say that because, I came from a no-name gym. No coach that ever coached me ever had another collegiate gymnast. And I'm not saying there's something special about me. I'm saying anyone can do it. But the fact that a lot of times when we go into a gym, there's an expectation that this gym is going to do something, or that this equipment will do something, or that this coach particularly will do something. And instantly we hand over our power and it sets up a dynamic to like, let that coach rule the roost. Like, we've all listened, and sometimes the coaches don't want that power, by the way. Like, I've seen I've seen both sides of the coin. Like, coaches are making decisions mentally and emotionally and physically for children they don't want to be making. And sometimes we're handing it over, and it's kind of this cycle of domestic violence in sport that kind of just existed for too long. And finally, it's not okay. Right. And so I think like one of the stepping stones that's super simple is just going into a gym, recognizing that, hey, we're here. Why am I doing sport? Get really clear. And if it is to become an elite gymnast, that's great. What can you gather along the way? Because if you focus only on becoming an elite gymnast, you are not going to be happy. And it's going to make those hard days harder. Like you'll do hard things if there's a good why, right? Like if the why is, I want to be the best I can be. I want to love the sport. I want to have joy. I want to harness all these attributes to become an amazing human. I want to see how God can work through me in this sport. And maybe if I become really good and I'm speaking out, people start seeing someone with good character. And that's a good thing, right? So it's like, what's our why? And I feel like if we can get really clear as a parent and as an athlete, when you're going into a gym, what is my why? Then we can stop putting unnecessary or unrealistic expectations and handing over our power at the same time. We can have ownership of it. Does that make sense? I don't know, maybe I'm babbling too
Absolutely.
much, but
Yeah. No, and it makes me think about, I ask kids, I help them find their why in by going back to that 7-year-old story. We all have our 7-year-old story of doing flips on my dad's bed over and over and over, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, like, we gotta get you back in the gym, or you're going to be, like, scaling the pole at Target like Jonathan
yeah,
Horton," like, you get in the gym. And so we all have those moments of, well, why? Like, my little girls were doing handstands this week. And they're like, "Watch, mom, look, it's higher. Look, my toes are better. Look, my legs are straighter. Look." They just wanna show me that they're getting a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. And I'm like, "Yes, any task that involves you embracing the journey of mastery is a worthwhile endeavor." And so these kids show up and they flip because it's fun and they love getting better and they love showing off their improvement and their hard work. And then they're like, "Wait, I can get medals for this? Okay, now I'm all the way in." And but then they start to forget that it was the flipping and the mastery that they loved, and they start to think that it's the medals that they're working toward. And that's where and then they see, "Oh, but my mom is so proud," or "My coach sees my potential." And then they start to think, "Well, my purpose is to make my mom happy or to make my coach proud or to win the medals." And
yeah,
I know that anytime that you're working towards something outside of your control, that's a recipe for burnout. If you're not doing it 100% for yourself and you don't feel like you have a choice, like, well, my mom drives me an hour each way, so like I can't quit. They put so much money into this. I have to keep going. That to me is, if there's any, like, I do this for anything outside of myself, that's where burnout comes in. But I'd love to hear your perspective on some of the, like, red flags or things that can cause burnout or things that parents should look out for so that their kids
yeah.
don't burn out. Even the little special kid, who loves it and is great at it, if they don't have the right relationship with it, they're not gonna make it to college.
Yeah. When I work with athletes, we don't ever talk scores. Scores are not within your control. Judges are not within your control. Places are definitely not in control because that would be you'd have to control judges and all the people who are competing against you and the equipment. And like, that's just not going to happen. So, so it sets you up for failure, like you said. So I tell people what's really funny is like I remember I was one of those athletes because of our generation that we were in that kind of got tied into those medals, right? Like my parents built a big thing that had medals hanging in it. All the medals were there. They were cataloged. They were written on the back of them, where they were, what place it was, how old I was, what level I was, what gym I represented. The whole thing was on the back of every ribbon and medal and trophy. And I laugh because you know where those medals are. You know where they ended up. They got put in a trash sack and they got put into the closet. And then my mom passed and I found the medals in the closet. And someone said, "You should take these." And I was like, "Okay, what am I going to do with them?" And so I stuck them in the garage. They stayed in that trash sack for a couple years until one day I said, my daughter, oh, she was going to dress up like Simone Biles and she needed a gold medal. Now this is humbling. She needed a gold medal. And so listen to all the metaphors in here that happen. She needed a gold medal and so she could do the thing. And I totally forgot about the medals. And then I was like, "Oh, wait, there's some medals in the garage, I think." And she says, "Okay, well, let's go look." And so we're digging through. "Mom, I can't find any gold medals." Starts looking, found like four, right? Found like four gold medals. And I thought, well, that number one, that tells you something, right? Like years and years of competition, and you only get like four gold medals. Like it's like not that big a deal. Like that just the statistics, right? Like if that was my one goal, I've been in trouble. So then I decided to donate those medals to one of the local gyms. And I said, look, I want you to give these to the kids that not for skills. So I want you to give them to the kids who like stay in line, who are like happiest today, who like showed up and like, just like maybe they had a bad day and they're here and like they're ready to go and they're being most willing or the best teammate, right? And just hand them out for random things that you see are like acts of kindness, like goodness, right? And so I felt like the medals, it was very parting. I felt like they got a good life afterwards. They were going to a place of joy. But I kind of voted for this gym. I said, you ought to talk to your optional kids. Just saying, it'd be kind of cool to have a like medal repurposing program where like when you've won your medal, you've kept it for a period of time, and then you like hand it down to the younger generation for something special. And it's kind of an act of separating ourselves from the medal, like identifying that I am that first place award, right? Like that my value as a human is related to that gold medal. And by giving it away to someone else, you've now created joy and you've connected the intergenerational stuff, which totally helps with learning and leadership and autonomy. So I don't know if anyone out there wants to do it. I am totally voting for a medal repurposing program. Sure, they get to keep the medals for a while, but it's an ability to detach from it and recognize what the medal really just, it's the work and the process that really got you there.
I had that box of medals, and in my box was my Barbies, and it was my mom was like, get this out of my garage. Like, here you
Right.
go. And I look at it, I'm like, what am I going to do with this? So it's gone. I don't know where it went, but it makes me think like, okay, we get to this place where we're working for the medals, but then we come out the other end of sport because all of us, you and I are still obsessed with gymnastics and we never really got away from it. But like we stopped competing, came out the other end, and every single athlete will have the day where that's their last competition, or that's their last practice. And are we going to carry a box full of old dusty medals, back problems, perfectionism, self-hatred, low self-esteem, depression, anxiety? Are we going to
Body
body
judgment.
image issues? Is that like what we want our legacy of the sport to be? Or do we want to go like, actually, I'm walking out of this sport, someone who can deal with fear, who can manage and respect my emotions, who can be kind to others, who can find a role on the team that isn't always superstar and embrace it and love it. Like that's the kind of thing, that's the only like I would not let my children walk into a gym culture where they're going to be told that their body's not right like I was.
Yeah.
I'm not going to let them walk into a place where they're going to be told that they're not good enough over and over and over. Like they're doing that enough themselves, just as little tiny humans with underdeveloped brains.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's such a great metaphor for like, you're going to have this dusty box of medals. Let's say they're all gold. Still, there's
No,
going
they
to be a
mean
point
nothing.
where you're like, honey, where do you want me to put this box?
Yeah.
And then the kids are like covering them with puffy paint or like, it's just, but what you take internally is going to persist. And I think that is so like, it just has to be the point of this thing, not the like, she's so talented. Let's show grandma a video of it on Facebook. Like, that's not what it's about.
This is my dream for the sport, is that this period does not exist for others, because when they leave the sport, they leave with so much love for the sport and appreciation for the journey and all that they've come out of it. And we've been able to create a culture and an environment for them where they collaborated in their journey and where they come out on the other end being super confident, super high self-efficacy, and like just, I can take over the world because I've done a whole bunch of hard stuff that no one else did, right? And I dedicated a bunch of hours. Like, who dedicates 13 years to one goal? Crazy people like me, right? But the thing is that makes doing like other tasks much easier. Like when it's like, oh, I have to master Instagram. Okay, well, I can do that. Like I'm not a master at it by far, and I still need more time. But like, all these business things I've had to do recently, because of the attributes I gained through gymnastics. It's like, okay, yeah, like this is a hard fail. 5 people liked it. Well, okay, we'll try it again. Like you do you. Like it's like, you just put on the Leo and go again. Like it's So I guess what I'm saying is that, I hope that this period doesn't exist for this next generation of athletes that are coming, but there was a long generation of people who, when went to high levels of sport, and even some of them just optionals, but I can attribute to knowing college athletes and elite level athletes that took a good 5 years to 9 years to come back to even watching the sport on TV at times, because and even I've worked with several post gymnastics syndrome people who like even didn't have a healthy relationship with exercise because of their experience. Like they didn't even want to exercise. They were very interested in exercise, and even a physical therapist, one of them, but had a very hard time like going into a gym and exercising because it just felt too much like what they had growing up. And so, I think in order to not have that, I think that we have to constantly check our priorities, both as a parent, as an athlete, and as a coach. And I think we have to keep in mind as the parent and coach that these little humans don't have prefrontal cortexes until females 23 and males 26, which means they make no logical decisions. They don't have the logic part of their brain, which means it is natural for them to want to please. And I think that's the key, is recognizing like they're always just wanting to please someone and something. They're always just wanting love. Like that's the ultimate thing. And so creating an environment where they get love and supported takes out that need to please and need to perform to be loved, right? And then ultimately that creates a space where you can say, have collaboration and autonomy. And Yuka Segoria and I just, from Level Up Neural, we just talked about autonomy. We had a webinar a few weeks ago about autonomy. And, you can offer very simple choices, and they don't even have to be choices related to what you're doing. Maybe it's like, hey, do 10 or 14 V-ups. Right? Or maybe it's, hey, I want each one of you in the group to pick one ab. We've already taught ab conditioning, right? So they know basics. So like, okay, I want one in each group to pick an ab conditioning, and numbers can be anywhere from 10 to 20. You guys pick. And just let it go. And there's a carryover. And that's what the research says. So they use these golfers, and Yuka like talks about it, but they got to pick their color ball, and their performance rose whenever they got to, so one golfer picked, so there was a golfer, they were paired with another golfer. This golfer had to do whatever this golfer did. This golfer got to pick his color ball, and his performance and his accuracy went up. And the other guy just kind of stayed, right? And then the next day they all got white balls, but the guys who got to pick the balls colored the day before still rose higher in their performance and accuracy. And so it's just interesting. So there's this whole thing about self-efficacy, about motor learning, their ability to learn and retain a skill, their ability to just higher levels of performance and sustain those performance. When you offer autonomy and you offer choices, right? So it's kind of like this parenting, love and logic, or positive parenting. You just offer two choices that are good. Like I've been doing that with my kid for a long time. Like I'm like, here's pink shoes, here's blue shoes. You pick which one do you want, right? And here, we love making burritos and tacos, or even making our own pizza at home. It's another choice of autonomy. I just throw out everything that I think is good, all the veggies, all the meat, and go to town, So I think if we can create places where kids can have autonomy, and there's clarity on the why for both the parent and the athlete. And then I think the coach in the gym really needs clarity on their why. And I think they should publicize it. Like some of the gyms do it. They have a really good public mission statement, and they actually live by their mission statement. Like they actually act that way, right? Like that's their culture. I think if we could all be clear on that, it helps a ton with this burnout. And it helps with this end goal in mind, to just have amazing humans. If we can tap into teaching those kids, like if I am a gym owner, how many thousands of kids do I have an effect on that come through that gym at some point? So it's kind of like, if we can tap into these lessons and teach them through sport, we can actually change the whole world at some point.
Yep. Then you hire the right coaches, you teach in the right way, you have this whole huge ripple effect of raising strong, confident humans who have a choice and a voice. And that,
Mhm.
yes, amen, sister. Well, Brandi, this is amazing. I could talk with you all day. If people want to find more from you or learn more about your programs, where is the best way to find you?
Well, I actually have a free program going on right now. So they can actually check out my free program at perfect, the number 10 ptacademy.com. So it's perfect, the number 10 ptacademy.com. They can go there right now and then get a free training. And then we can stay connected that way. Yeah, that's the best, fastest way to get a hold of me.
Amazing. Thank you so much for the work you're doing in our great sport and for hanging out with me today. It's been such a
Oh,
pleasure.
you're welcome. Thanks for having me. I love what you're doing, and it's just keep on lighting more lights. Like that's really what it boils down to. It's just how many lights can we light before my light is done, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
beautiful. Thank you so much.
welcome.